Hello, I'm Mark. I'm 23 in my final year studying economics, living in the same small town I grew up in. I guess you could describe me as straightforward, a bit impulsive, and always ready to lend a hand. Life here moves slowly, but I like that it's familiar and comfortable. It was late afternoon and I was driving back home from class. My car, an old but reliable Honda, hummed quietly as I navigated the winding country road. The sun was hanging low, casting long golden shadows across the fields. I rolled down the window, letting the cool breeze wash over me. That's when I saw her. Parked awkwardly on the side of the road was a familiar silver SUV, hazard lights blinking. A woman was standing next to it, her arms crossed as she stared helplessly at the deflated tire. I instantly recognized her. Emily Carter, my best friend Tom's mom. I'd known Emily for years, but we'd never exchanged more than polite greetings or small talk. This would be the first time I'd actually have a conversation with her alone. Without hesitating, I pulled my car onto the shoulder and hopped out, jogging over. "Hey, Mrs. Carter," I called, waving to catch her attention. She turned around quickly, a look of surprise on her face before it melted into relief. "Mark," she said, smiling warmly. "Oh my gosh, am I glad to see you." "Flat tire, huh?" I glanced down, assessing the damage. "Yeah," she sighed, brushing a strand of brown hair from her face. "I hit something sharp, I think. I'm not exactly a pro at this stuff." "No worries," I said, opening the trunk of her SUV. "I've got it." She handed me the jack and tools from the back of her car, and I got to work, kneeling on the asphalt as I loosened the lug nuts. Emily stood beside me, arms folded, shifting anxiously from foot to foot. As I worked, I stole occasional glances at her. I'd never really noticed before how attractive she was. She had that quiet, understated beauty, dressed casually but neatly in jeans and a soft blue sweater. Her eyes were gentle but carried a trace of sadness, something I'd never paid attention to until now. "So," she started, breaking the silence, "how's school?" I smiled, wiping a bit of dirt from my hands. "Good, almost done. Can't wait to graduate, though. I'm not exactly sure what comes next." She nodded thoughtfully. "Well, you're still young. You've got plenty of time to figure it out." We chatted lightly for a while about about town gossip, about nothing in particular. But then the conversation drifted deeper. "Tom tells me you're living alone these days?" Emily asked softly. "Yeah," I admitted. "Got a little apartment near campus. It's nice to have my own space." She paused for a moment before saying quietly, "Yeah, I get that. I've been alone myself since Tom left for college." There was something in the way she said it, a hint of loneliness that tugged at my chest. "I imagine that's tough," I said carefully. She looked away briefly, then back at me, her voice barely above a whisper. "It has been, ever since Tom's dad left. That was years ago, but some days it still feels fresh." The vulnerability in her eyes hit me harder than I expected. I had always known Tom's dad was out of the picture, but I'd never stopped to think about how much it must have hurt Emily. At that moment, she seemed less like Tom's mom and more like someone who'd been through a lot, someone deserving of kindness. "I'm sorry," I murmured genuinely. "That can't be easy." She shook her head gently, a small smile on her lips. "It's life, I suppose, but thank you, Mark, not just for the tire, for listening. It's nice to talk." I finished replacing the tire, tightening the last lug nut before standing and brushing off my knees. "All set," I announced, returning the tools to the trunk. Emily's eyes brightened, her smile wide and sincere. "You're a lifesaver." "It was nothing," I said, feeling unexpectedly shy under her grateful gaze. "No, it means a lot," she insisted. Then she paused, glancing down before raising her eyes back to mine. Would you like to come over for dinner this weekend? You know, as a proper thank you. My heart gave an odd little skip. It was just dinner, I told myself. Emily was just being kind. But something in her tone, the way she looked at me with gentle sincerity, felt different, inviting in a way I couldn't quite describe. I'd love to, I found myself saying. Good, she replied, her smile softening. I'll make something nice. We exchanged quick goodbyes, and as I watched her drive off, I stood there by the roadside feeling strangely exhilarated and uncertain at once. I climbed back into my car, my thoughts racing. It wasn't as if I had never noticed Emily before, but something had shifted today. Seeing her vulnerability, the subtle loneliness she carried, had changed how I looked at her. She wasn't just Tom's mom anymore. She was Emily, a woman with her own story, someone who needed companionship and understanding, and maybe, just maybe, I needed something similar. As I drove home, a mix of anticipation and confusion churned inside me. I wasn't sure exactly what I was feeling or why I was so eager about a simple dinner invitation. But one thing was clear. I wouldn't miss it for anything. Saturday evening came quicker than I anticipated. As I parked my car in front of Emily's house, I felt an unexpected nervousness settle in my stomach. I had been here countless times before, always hanging out with Tom. But tonight felt strangely different. For the first time, I was visiting not as Tom's friend, but as Emily's guest. I stepped up to the porch, taking a deep breath before knocking gently on the door. Almost immediately, it swung open, revealing Emily standing there with a warm, welcoming smile. "Hi, Mark," she greeted me softly, stepping aside to let me in. She wore a simple navy dress, casual yet elegant, her hair down in gentle waves around her shoulders. "Thanks for coming. Thanks for inviting me," I replied, stepping inside and immediately noticing the scent of roasted chicken and herbs drifting from the kitchen. It was comforting, homely, yet beneath it lingered an intangible sense of emptiness. Emily led me into the dining room, the table set neatly for two. It felt intimate, more personal than I'd imagined. She must have noticed my hesitation because she quickly reassured me. "Hope you don't mind. It's just the two of us," she said softly, her eyes searching mine. "Tom won't be home until next month, and I thought it would be nice to have some company." "I don't mind at all," I replied honestly, noticing a small flicker of relief in her eyes. "It's good to get out of my place once in a while." She laughed softly, motioning for me to sit as she disappeared into the kitchen. Moments later, she returned, carrying a steaming dish of roasted chicken and potatoes, accompanied by a salad. As we began to eat, our conversation flowed easily, naturally, far more comfortably than I'd expected. We talked about school, about her job at the local clinic, and about life in our small town. Emily was surprisingly easy to talk to. Unlike many girls my age who always seemed wrapped up in trivial concerns, Emily listened intently, asking thoughtful questions. Her maturity and depth drew me in effortlessly. "So," she began softly after a brief pause, her eyes thoughtful, "do you have any plans after graduation?" I shrugged, pushing a potato around my plate. "Honestly, I haven't figured that out yet. I feel like everyone else has a plan, but I'm just drifting." She nodded, understanding clear in her expression. "That's not unusual. Tom feels the same way. Sometimes it's okay not to have all the answers yet. Life has a way of guiding you." "I guess you're right," I said, relaxing under her gentle reassurance. "How about you? Any big plans?" She hesitated for a moment, a soft, slightly sad smile appearing. "I think I'm past the age of big plans," she said quietly. "Mostly I try to keep myself busy. The clinic helps, gardening helps, but with Tom gone, the house just feels a bit too big." Her voice grew softer and her eyes drifted down to her plate. I suppose I've been feeling lonely more often these days, but it's part of life, right? The honesty in her voice hit me deeply. I'd never imagined someone like Emily, always composed and seemingly content, would admit to such vulnerability. I felt an impulse to comfort her, to reach out and assure her she wasn't alone. "You know," I said slowly, finding the right words, "Tom always talks about how strong you are. He admires you a lot." She glanced up, her eyes warm and grateful. "That's sweet of you, Mark. But even the strongest people have their moments of weakness." The room fell quiet for a moment, the silence comfortable yet charged with an emotion I couldn't quite place. Eventually, Emily broke the silence with a small laugh. "Look at me, turning this lovely evening into something depressing. Tell me something lighter. Any interesting stories from campus?" I grinned, relieved, and began recounting some of the more humorous incidents I'd witnessed at college. Emily laughed, a genuine, heartfelt sound that echoed through the room, dispelling the brief melancholy. Dinner passed quickly, and soon we were clearing plates and dishes, working together effortlessly in her warm kitchen. I washed while Emily dried, our movements synchronized as though we'd done this 1,000 times. As we finished cleaning, I reached to hand her the last plate. Our fingers brushed gently, unintentionally, but in that brief instant, everything froze. Our eyes met, and something passed between us, a subtle spark that made my heart skip. I saw Emily's breath catch slightly, her cheeks flushed as she quickly looked away, taking the plate from my hand. "Thanks again for helping me tonight," she said quietly, trying to maintain composure. "No problem," I replied, feeling oddly breathless myself. "Dinner was amazing. You're an excellent cook." She smiled faintly, clearly still affected by that brief moment of contact. "I'm glad you liked it." The silence returned, heavier this time. We both stood awkwardly, neither of us quite sure how to proceed. Eventually, I broke the silence. "I should probably get going," I murmured, though part of me didn't want to leave. "Of course." She nodded quickly, a small nervous smile appearing. "Thank you again, Mark. It was really nice having you here." "I enjoyed it too," I admitted, honestly surprised at how genuine the words felt. We walked quietly to the door and Emily paused, turning to me with a gentle look. "If you ever feel like talking or just need company, my door is always open." "Thanks, Emily," I replied softly. Hearing myself say her name, not Mrs. Carter, but Emily, felt surprisingly intimate and right. She gave me a final warm smile as I stepped outside, the cool evening air helping clear my head a little. Yet, even as I got into my car and drove away, I couldn't shake the memory of that moment. Our fingers touched, the way her eyes had widened, the quiet breath she'd taken. Back in my apartment, I lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. Why was I feeling this way? Was it normal to feel so strongly about my best friend's mother? Was it wrong or just complicated? Emily wasn't just Tom's mom anymore. She was a woman who had shared her vulnerability and loneliness with me, someone who made me feel comfortable, appreciated, understood. I sighed heavily, turning over in bed, unable to quiet my thoughts. One thing was certain. This was not how I had imagined the evening would end, and yet despite my confusion, I couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation, wondering what would happen next. Whatever it was clear to me now my feelings for Emily were no longer simple. Something had changed, and there was no turning back. A week passed since that memorable dinner, but despite my best efforts, Emily never left my mind. I found myself involuntarily glancing toward her house each time I drove by, wondering what she might be doing, if she was thinking about me at all, or if I had simply imagined the connection we'd shared. I was in the middle of attempting to concentrate on a paper due the next day when my phone buzzed. I picked it up absent-mindedly, expecting some trivial message from Tom or one of my classmates. Instead, I saw Emily's name flash across the screen and my heart immediately skipped. "Hey, Mark," her message read. "I hate to bother you again, but could you help me fix a few small things around the house? Nothing major, just a stuck door and some burned-out lights. If you're busy, I totally understand." I smiled, warmth spreading through me at the thought of seeing her again. Without hesitation, I typed back, "No problem, Emily. I'll be over in 10 minutes. Pulling on a clean shirt, I ran a hand through my hair, quickly trying to calm the rush of excitement I felt. Walking over to her house, my heart pounded in my chest. I knew this was just helping out, nothing more, but it felt significant somehow. Emily opened the door, smiling softly. "Thanks for coming so quickly," she said warmly, stepping back to let me inside. She was dressed comfortably in faded jeans and a soft white sweater, her hair tied up loosely, making her look effortlessly beautiful. "No worries," I replied, stepping into the familiar warmth of her home. "Glad to help." I started with the stuck door, which was nothing more than a swollen hinge, easily fixed with some lubricant and minor adjustments. Emily watched quietly from a distance, her eyes following my movements, clearly thoughtful but hesitant. "So," she said softly as I tightened the last screw, "how was your week?" "Honestly," I sighed, looking over at her with a small, shy smile, "pretty distracted." She laughed gently, nodding. "Yeah, I understand that feeling." Her eyes held mine for a moment longer than necessary, and then she turned away abruptly. "I'll show you where those burned-out bulbs are," she said, her voice lightly trembling. I followed her through the quiet house, each room feeling both warm and empty at the same time. It was strange how this place, always filled with memories of Tom and our friendship, now felt completely different, filled instead with unspoken tension and delicate possibility. As I stood on a stool to replace bulbs in the kitchen ceiling, Emily handed me the new bulbs, her gaze lingering on my face, her expression unreadable. "You know," she started softly, leaning against the countertop, "I've been thinking a lot about last weekend. I'm sorry if that evening made you uncomfortable." Surprised, I looked down at her, meeting her gentle eyes. "It didn't," I assured her quickly. "Not at all." She hesitated, taking a deep breath before continuing. "I didn't expect to feel so at ease with someone your age. It's strange, honestly." My heart quickened at her words, the honesty in her voice encouraging me to speak openly. Carefully, I stepped down from the stool and faced her, my voice low but steady. "Emily, you're not alone. I felt it too. That ease you're talking about, I haven't felt it before. Not with anyone." Her eyes widened slightly, but her gaze never wavered from mine. "Really?" she asked softly, her voice filled with quiet hope. I nodded slowly. "Yeah, really." We stood there in silence, the air thick with tension and unsaid words, neither of us sure how to navigate the situation. Finally, Emily spoke again, her voice barely above a whisper. "Mark, you must know how complicated this is. You're Tom's best friend, and I'm his mother. People wouldn't understand." "I know," I admitted quietly. "Believe me, I've thought about it all week. But it doesn't change how I feel. I can't pretend those feelings don't exist." Emily looked down, biting her lip thoughtfully. "I can't either," she confessed after a long pause. "I tried to ignore it, tried to tell myself I was just lonely and you were just being kind. But it's more than that." The honesty in her admission sent warmth spreading through my chest, mixed with equal parts joy and confusion. I stepped closer, hesitantly, reaching out and gently placing my hand on her arm. "I don't know what happens next," I said carefully, "but I do know we can't pretend nothing is happening between us." She nodded slowly, her eyes meeting mine again. "You're right. Ignoring it doesn't make it go away." Another silence fell between us. neither of us certain how to proceed. Finally, Emily offered a weak smile. Maybe we both just need time to think. Figure out what we really want. Maybe, I agreed, my hand still resting lightly on her arm. The warmth of her skin felt both comforting and electrifying, a reminder of how real our connection had become. After a long pause, she gently stepped back, breaking our contact, but not the intimacy we'd created. "I suppose I should let you go," she said quietly, attempting a smile. "Thanks for your help today, Mark. I appreciate it more than you know." "Always happy to help," I replied softly, the words carrying far more meaning than their simplicity suggested. She walked me to the front door and we exchanged a quiet, uncertain goodbye. As I stepped outside into the cool evening air, I felt a confusing mix of exhilaration and anxiety. My heart raced with excitement, but my mind wrestled with doubts and unanswered questions. As I walked toward my car, I glanced back at Emily's house one last time. She stood in the window, silhouetted against the soft lamplight, watching me leave. Her expression was distant, conflicted, mirroring the turmoil inside me. Driving home, my thoughts spun relentlessly. How could something that felt so right be so complicated? Was this just infatuation or something deeper? And most importantly, could we ever really be together without hurting Tom or losing something precious in the process? I knew one thing for certain. I couldn't deny my feelings for Emily anymore. There was something undeniable between us, a powerful attraction neither of us had planned or expected. It felt like stepping into unknown territory, thrilling yet terrifying. As I parked outside my apartment and sat quietly in my car, I realized there was no turning back. Whatever happened next, my heart had already made its choice. The days that followed felt longer than usual. I struggled with the strange tension that now filled my life, the lingering uncertainty about what would come next. Each time I saw Tom's name appear on my phone, guilt gnawed at me, reminding me of the line I'd nearly crossed. I knew my feelings for Emily were real, deeper than I'd expected, but so was my loyalty to Tom. He was more than a friend, he was like a brother, and I feared losing him above everything else. Still, I couldn't ignore my heart anymore. Pretending there was nothing between Emily and me felt dishonest, even cruel. After countless sleepless nights, I decided that hiding was no longer an option. Whatever happened, I had to face it head on, to be honest and mature. Tom deserved that. Emily deserved that. I owed it to myself as well. One quiet afternoon, while shopping for groceries at the local supermarket, I turned a corner and almost collided with Emily. Our eyes met instantly, surprise giving way quickly to a shared, knowing glance. "Mark," she said softly, a hesitant smile forming. She looked radiant in simple jeans and a soft white blouse, her hair framing her face delicately. "I didn't expect to see you here." "Same here," I replied gently, feeling my heartbeat quicken at the sight of her. "But I'm glad we ran into each other." She hesitated, her eyes searching mine for a moment before speaking. "I've been thinking a lot since last time. About us." "Me too," I admitted honestly. "It's all I've been able to think about." We stood silently in the aisle, neither sure how to proceed until Emily finally spoke again, her voice quiet yet firm. "You know Tom better than anyone," she started carefully. "How do you think he'd react?" I sighed deeply, looking down briefly before meeting her gaze again. "Honestly, I don't know. It'll be hard for him to accept at first, I'm sure. But Tom's mature and understanding, and if we approach this right, maybe he'll understand." Emily nodded slowly, worry creasing her brow. "He's my son, Mark. I don't want to hurt him." But she paused, her eyes suddenly misty. "I've been alone for so long. The happiness I feel when I'm around you, it's something I never expected again." Her vulnerability stirred something deep inside me, a desire to protect her from more pain. I took a step closer, wanting desperately to reassure her. Emily, I feel the same. These last weeks being around you, it's shown me something real, something worth fighting for. She offered a shaky smile, tears shining in her eyes. Mark, I don't know if we're making a huge mistake, but I do know I've never felt more alive than I do when you're with me. We stood silently, the weight of our conversation hanging heavily between us. After a moment, I reached out and took her hand gently, our fingers intertwining easily, naturally. I've thought a lot about this, I said, slowly steadying my voice. I don't want to hide anymore. I want to talk to Tom openly, tell him how we feel. I need him to hear it from me first. Emily squeezed my hand softly, nodding with determination. You're right, Mark. Whatever happens, honesty is the best path forward. The decision was made, yet fear and anxiety lingered at the edge of my heart. There was no guarantee this conversation would go well. It could change everything. Still, knowing Emily was beside me, sharing my resolve made it easier to bear. Later that evening, after pacing anxiously around my apartment, I gathered my courage and picked up my phone, texting Tom a simple message. Hey, can we talk? It's important. His reply came quickly, sure man, come over whenever. I took a deep breath, steadying myself before stepping outside. The evening air was cool, refreshing, and oddly comforting. As I approached Tom's house, I saw Emily standing in the living room window, her silhouette soft against the lamplight. Her expression was unreadable but filled with quiet hope and nervousness. She offered a small, encouraging nod when our eyes met. It was all the strength I needed. Walking up to Tom's front door felt like the longest walk I'd ever taken. My pulse quickened and my palms felt sweaty. I tried rehearsing what I'd say, how I'd explain things without sounding foolish or selfish. But each word escaped me. Standing before the familiar door, memories of countless hours spent here flooded back. Times Tom and I had laughed together, confided in each other, and grown up side by side. My friendship with Tom was precious, perhaps the most important in my life. And I couldn't lose sight of that even as I embraced these new feelings. Taking a final deep breath, I lifted my hand and knocked firmly on the door. A few seconds passed, feeling like an eternity before I heard Tom's footsteps approach from inside. I glanced briefly over my shoulder, seeing Emily still watching from the window. Her eyes were wide with concern but also filled with gentle trust. It gave me courage. The door swung open, revealing Tom's friendly, easygoing smile. Hey, man, he greeted me casually, stepping aside. Everything okay? Hey, I answered quietly, stepping into the familiar warmth of his house. My voice trembled slightly, betraying my nerves. Actually, there's something really important we need to talk about. Tom noticed my tension immediately, his expression shifting to concern. All right, he said seriously, shutting the door behind me. What's going on? I paused, gathering all my strength, knowing this moment was inevitable and necessary. I owed Tom honesty, and it was the only way forward. It's about your mom, I began gently, watching his eyes widen slightly in surprise. Tom, something's happened that I never expected. Emily and we've started to develop feelings for each other. Tom remained silent, staring at me with an unreadable expression, clearly processing this revelation. Before he could respond, I continued earnestly, wanting to reassure him. I want you to know nothing has really happened between us yet. We both wanted you to hear it from me first. I know it's strange, maybe uncomfortable, but my feelings for her are sincere and serious. Tom slowly nodded, clearly absorbing what I'd just shared. I could sense his shock, confusion, maybe even anger, but I also knew Tom's character. He'd always been open-minded and thoughtful. My hope rested heavily on those traits now. He sighed deeply after a moment, finally meeting my eyes. This is a lot to take in, Mark. I know. I replied softly, "and the last thing I want is to hurt you or risk our friendship. But I need you to know this isn't something casual or impulsive. It's real. Emily matters deeply to me." Tom glanced away, running a hand through his hair, clearly conflicted. After a long pause, he spoke quietly, carefully choosing each word. "Honestly, I need some time to think about this, Mark." "Of course," I agreed immediately, relief washing over me at his calm response. "Take all the time you need. Just know whatever your decision, our friendship matters a lot to me. Nothing will ever change that." He gave me a hesitant nod, his expression still thoughtful. "I appreciate you coming to me first," he said finally, his voice steady yet gentle. As I left Tom's house, stepping back into the cool night air, my heart felt lighter. Nothing was resolved yet, but I'd taken the first crucial step toward honesty and maturity. I glanced once more toward Emily's window. She still stood there, waiting patiently, hopeful and strong. Despite the uncertainty that lay ahead, I knew deep inside I'd made the right decision. Now all we could do was wait, hoping that love, friendship, and honesty could coexist, guiding us toward a future we all could share peacefully. And though the road was uncertain, I felt ready to walk it no matter where it led. In the heart of this unexpected journey between Mark and Emily, we uncover a profound life lesson, that true connection knows no boundaries, and embracing vulnerability can lead to the most rewarding paths even when they're fraught with complications. Life often throws us curveballs like a flat tire on a quiet road or a fleeting touch that ignites unspoken feelings, reminding us that love doesn't adhere to society's rules or timelines. It's in those raw moments of honesty, admitting loneliness, facing fears, and choosing to confide in a friend, that we find our deepest growth. Mark's courage to confront his emotions and prioritize transparency with Tom teaches us that hiding our hearts only prolongs pain, while stepping into the unknown with integrity can heal old wounds and forge unbreakable bonds. Whether it's defying age gaps, navigating friendships, or simply listening to that inner whisper of possibility, this story urges us to chase authenticity over comfort. It tugs at the soul, showing that happiness blooms in the most unlikely places when we dare to be real. What about you? Have you ever found love in an unexpected corner of life, or faced a tough conversation that changed everything? Share your stories in the comments below. I read every one and love hearing from you. If this touched your heart, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications for more inspiring tales that explore the beauty of human connections. Let's keep the conversation going.